Well, the Kansas City Chiefs are in the playoffs. We know that much. We know they're not going up or down. We talk about it here on the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast. Eric Eager, Jeff Chadiha, Soren Petro with you. What can we take away from this win against the Bengals? Does it mean anything? What does an 8th consecutive AFC West title mean? A scale-back offense? Is that what fixed it? Does that make this team a Super Bowl contender? How important is Isiah Pacheco? Is Rashee Rice the number one target for this team? Chris Jones, can he dominate? Is L'Jarius Sneed coming back? We're talking about it all right now on the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast.
You're listening to the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Chiefs on planet Earth, breaking down the Chiefs like no one else can. Red, Gold, and Bold is hosted by Jeff Chadiha, Eric Eager, and Soren Petro. Jeff Chadiha is a senior columnist and on-air personality for the NFL Network and NFL.com. Eric Eager is the vice president of research and development for Sumer Sports. Soren Petro is the afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. The Red, Gold, and Bold podcast is proudly brought to you by Gann Asphalt and Concrete, Kansas City's nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor, making parking lot problems disappear since 1994. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. Now, here are the hosts of the best Chiefs podcast, Jeff Chadiha, Eric Eager, and Soren Petro.
Thank you, Curtis. We appreciate it. Off and running here, week 17 in the books for the Kansas City Chiefs. And we know where they will be come playoff time. They'll be the 3 seed. They beat the Cincinnati Bengals. Jeff, it seems like this is a recurring theme on this podcast where we ask the question, is it all fixed? What did that Bengals win say to you?
Is it fixed? It looks better. I won't say it's fixed until I see it happen for a couple more games. And at this stage, we won't really know that until we're well into the postseason, right? I mean, you're not going to be playing many key players in this next game coming up. And then we're talking about the wild card round. I think the upside of what I saw was they made changes. Obviously, the offense got a little simpler. They they relied more on Isiah Pacheco and Rashee Rice and less on the other guys. The downside, 3 for 12, third down conversions, 6 field goals. But ultimately, this is how they're going to have to play to win games for the rest of this year. I mean, whether we like it or not, whether they like it or not, this is the recipe they're going to have to follow. It opens them up to more defensive challenges, but at this stage, it's more about players than plays, and I'm glad they realized it.
Eric, what do you think? What can be taken away from this? Is this a sign that they've at least pointed the ship in the right direction, or would you go so far as to say that scaling back of the offense, that was the hype coming into this game, that was the magic elixir that this team has been looking for?
Yeah, I don't know if they scaled back the offense so much as they still played some of the same guys that pissed us all off, right? Like MVS still played like the majority of the game. Like they threw it to Noah Gray more than they threw it to Travis, especially early in the game. Like it was still weird, right? They gave the ball to Pacheco, but part of me believes that they just did that because all their backup running backs were hurt. So I'm skeptical on the offensive side, but I do want to we're in this conundrum, right, where they've given up 16 second half points in the last, I think it's like 4 or 5 games. I can't remember what range that is. They gave up none this week, or just 3 last week, if I'm not mistaken. The Green Bay game was kind of the turning point where the defense didn't play well. Even back to the Raiders game, the defense has kind of started this way, right? Where they've given up points at the beginning and basically clamped down in the second half of games. How much of that is the fact that their schedule has been littered with backup quarterbacks for the majority of this part of the season? That remains to be seen. But I agree wholeheartedly with what Jeff said. I don't think it's going to get any better from here. I think this is exactly how they're going to have to win football games. And I've maintained that they can win high-level football games this way. And I still do. But that, and there was somebody funny on Twitter just posted like, there's not that many like highlights for the Chiefs this year. Like if you actually like were to make the Jeff K like welcome Chiefs 2023 highlight video, like it wouldn't be like splash plays or anything, but they do kind of win this like very ugly game, and they did it on Sunday, and I think that they can do that in the playoffs because there are only 5 quarterbacks in the AFC who are starting for their team that started opening day.
I listen. If on 4th down in the 3rd quarter, instead of going for it, the Bengals kick a field goal and go up 20-16, right? And if the Chiefs don't make their 4th down, I think we're screaming and yelling and calling this team the exact same thing we were calling it beforehand. Like, I think the perfume is not very strong on this. And I don't disagree with anything that both of you said. They have to embrace that this is like they didn't make those mistakes, right? They did make the play on 4th down. I'm not trying to take away. You never apologize for a win in the NFL, and I think that is absolute gold and how you do it. And then the Chiefs don't need to apologize for this win, and I think you're right. They're going to win ugly, but it has to be mistake-free. There's just no margin for error. And this is the Bengals team that is on their backup quarterback, and I know they won some games with them, but they were 3-2. Now like they're just fine. Like this Bengals team is still no world beater. And I think even with Joe Burrow, I don't know how good that they were going to be. And so the idea that now, because Isiah Pacheco had a good day and Rashee Rice had a good day, that now that's going to happen every week, I'm not buying it. Like, I think this game is a lot closer to being just like the last one than people are realizing right now.
Yeah, that 4th down play flipped it. I mean, T. Higgins having a hamstring injury. Jamar Chase obviously wasn't 100%. And DJ Reader wasn't playing for the Bengals, which is a big factor in the run game. And so I think the thing about the Chiefs right now that should make people more, I would say pessimistic, more realistic about their playoff chances is now we're starting to see teams ascend. The Ravens are clearly a much different team than they were a month ago when we were talking about who's the best team in the AFC, who's got the best shot. The Bills have played their way into the playoffs and could have a home game. The Cleveland Browns are a much stronger team now and a much more dangerous team in the playoffs. So when I look at the Chiefs now, it's really more about how do they compare to those teams that are starting to play better or are starting to string together wins. And I just don't see them. God, if they play Cleveland or the Ravens right now, I think the Bills would be a close game. But there's no way they're scoring points. They might score 7 points, 6 points. I mean, double digits would be a dream against those teams right now. And those teams have shown they can score points. So anybody who can get to 30 against the Chiefs right now is a hard team for the Chiefs to play against.
Yeah, I do think that they'll have trouble scoring against the Browns. But to Eric's point, like defensively again, right? Nothing after the first quarter. Yeah. Nothing. Now again, they went for it on 4th down. They could have gotten a field goal there, but they again give 7 points on a short field with a turnover. And by the way, can we also just one thing, and I forgot to put this on the rundown, but Richie James fielding a punt at the line.
Even his good punt return was stupid as hell. Catching the ball, the guy draped on him, holding the ball towards the field right when he's running with it. I don't know what Dave Tobe does here. Like, I get that his kicker kicked 6 field goals and we're happy for him, but like, you're fielding punts in the end zone. What did we? You guys will be surprised, but when I was in high school, I led my conference in punt return yardage. I know when to let the ball go over your head. What are we doing? Like, this team is the sloppiest. Like, is this team that poorly coached?
I mean,
they line up off sides. They field punts in the end zone.
I think they're desperate for big plays. That's what they are. They're trying to make things
sloppy.
Happen.
That's sloppy. Like, I don't know.
I do love it. Yes, eager, speechless on this. I mean, Jeff, like
for
that
once in my life.
Yeah, that is the point. Is like they are not a smart team. Let's just call it what it is. I mean, I'm not trying to call any one individual dumb. They do dumb football things. I mean,
I agree with you.
And it doesn't seem to be stopping just because they got away with it in this game does not mean that they're going to go, that they can play. They play that game against the Ravens, they will lose by double digits. They play that game against, the Bills, they will lose by double digits. And who knows, hell, the Bills might not even get into the playoffs. But I don't want to breeze by some good things. Like getting the ball to Rashee Rice is a good thing. Getting Isiah Pacheco going is a good thing. The question is, can, the way Eric put it, Jeff, can Andy Reid keep from touching the stove? Right? Like can he just keep it simple? Whatever we just saw, or is this now the way we launch into the next wave of fanciness because they had a couple of good plays?
I think Andy Reid is going to be Andy Reid. That's been proven. I mean, we always talk about his run versus pass ratios and should he do more with that. It's always going to be 70-30 pass run. It's always going to be, let me try to find a way to unlock all the people on this roster who I believe in. I think somebody was talking about what Mitchell Schwartz said on our podcast a few weeks ago, where he said this staff is super patient with players and they have the utmost faith and they've been rewarded for that. But at some point, patience becomes stubbornness. At some point, creativity becomes recklessness. And that's the line that this team hasn't had to walk because, and I've said this all the time, and it's not, people may take it the wrong way, but they've been getting away with this stuff for years. The only difference is they had better players when Patrick Mahomes first started quarterbacking this team and they could get away with it. But they've always done some dumb things, and they've always put themselves in bad positions and made some mistakes. They've always had big deficits. The difference was that they always knew they could overcome that with the talent that they had to work with. And this isn't, again, it's not a play calling issue. It's not a scheme issue. It's a talent issue. And so when you start talking about going to Rashee Rice more, going to Pacheco more, these are their only consistent playmakers right now. And Travis Kelce can be in that group, but he's more easy to shut down nowadays. I mean, what's he had? Like one touchdown in the last 9 games or something? And so,
we've seen the last. I mean, I'm excited. I'm happy for him. He's given us a lot of thrills and happiness here. I hope I have egg on my face come January and February, but we've seen the last of Travis Kelce as a difference maker on this football team at this point. When my guy went up for the ball like a 50-year-old during a Turkey Bowl in New England for that touchdown, alligator arms, we knew that guy, he's done, guys. Yeah. He's finished.
That was it. There's no coming back.
Right? Like, that guy wanted no part. And that's a physical position. Yeah. We are like, and again, people want to get mad at me and everything. And I'm not saying this to get after the guy. I'm happy. Somebody on Twitter, it was funny. I tweeted during the game, I'm like, Jamar Chase has 1 catch so far. And somebody replied and goes, what about Travis? I'm like, well, Travis has 2 Super Bowls and Taylor Swift. So you can go fly a kite. But like, Travis is done, right? This thing's over, right? He's out there. Like, but I think it's telling that when they threw to the tight end the other day, they threw to Noah Gray. Like, this is a Travis.
But is that part of simplifying the offense? Is like, listen, teams, they scheme to take away Travis Kelce. Let's let him do it, and let's just run some simple stuff for the other guys. And we didn't see, although I know there was some talk afterwards that, Rashee Rice ran a route, not what was called, but because of how he read it. And that scares the hell out of me because to me, I think they need to be running the routes and Mahomes knowing where they're going to go so that they can get the football there. But I mean, listen, you can't knock. I mean, 5 catches for 127 yards on 6 targets. I mean, that's big time. I mean, Rashee Rice, is he now? Eric is clearly, it's not Travis Kelce, but is Rashee Rice? I think he is the number 1 target, right? Will he be the number 1 target throughout the playoffs? And is he a legit number 1 caliber receiver?
Petro, Juju Smith-Schuster, we all talk about, Rashee Rice with a game left. And I know Juju missed a game last year. Rashee Rice has 1 fewer catch, more yards, and twice as many touchdowns as Juju had last year. Like he's replaced him fully. Like he's the number 1 wide receiver on this team and the number 1 target on this team. There's no doubt about that. And I know McDowell was on your show today. You had the day off. When they talked about the him modifying the route mid-route to go deep. Like that was a big thing. Like that's a trust issue. Patrick clearly has trust problems with everybody else on the team. And that's big. Like I think he's going to be a force. Now the question is, we talked about last year where, the other teams kind of were bamboozled into like caring about the deep threats and stuff and letting Travis, like do opposing defenses start to key on Rashee Rice and leave open Travis again? That's going to be like, that to me is the question. Cause I think it's undoubtedly Rashee Rice is the number one receiver on this team. And I don't think it's really close.
By the way, I do love in the comment section, we've had all in about the last 2 minutes, somebody say that they don't even double team Travis Kelce anymore. And somebody say that he can't catch the ball when he's triple teamed. So it's very different views.
Tight end.
Very, very different views of how Travis Kelce is being defended. Is Rashee Rice the number one receiver, Jeff?
Yeah, he's the number one. He's their best option.
But is he a legit
no he's not
playmaker,
no.
NFL style, have
No.
big days, carry a team in the playoff type of
No.
guy? A playoff game.
No, I think he can become that. But first of all, that long pass he caught it with like 5 yards on a defender, and he got caught at the 10-yard line or whatever it was. It should have been a walk-in touchdown. So the speed there tells you that as a deep threat, like he's lacking that ability, and he's not great separating from people. Where he's great at is catching the ball and accelerating and taking off. So the hitch stuff, the slants, that's where he's good. But that can be taken away. See the Las Vegas Raiders 2 weeks ago, who said, we're going to sit on stuff and not let you make those plays. And he had 57 yards on 6 catches. And so to be a number one receiver, you got to be doing what, and I'll go to young guys like Jamar Chase was doing as a rookie, what Justin Jefferson was doing as a rookie. You got to be doing like what Deebo Samuel was doing early in his career, where you got to come out and you got to really dominate teams, not just short stuff, not just slants, intermediate routes, deep routes. You got to be a guy who can get 10, 12 targets and get you about 150, 8 catches, a couple touchdowns a game. He's not there yet. And so do I like him? Yes. Do I like him more when there's a couple other guys involved? Yeah, definitely.
He did beat a guy on a go route. Like, let's be,
They blew the coverage.
But I mean, that is part of that is like, listen, we've been waiting on that for a long time because everything had been short and crossing and different things for him. And so I think he ran a route that I haven't seen him run all year. And I think the coverage, I think it was smart. It was smart play calling that, okay, here, you haven't seen this guy do this. We're going to do it. But he did beat the guy. He did catch the ball, which is something MVS can't do. And he did make a big play. I mean, I don't, that can't be taken away. I'm with you. I think that he is, we're going to be talking about him, at 12, 15,000 career yards. Probably not. No, I don't think that's going to happen. But is he a really effective player? Yes. Is he enough for this team? Is he enough to make this offense good enough to win a game at Baltimore?
No. They can take Baltimore the way they would match up. I mean, he's not having a big day against Marlon Humphrey. I can promise you that. And in fact, Baltimore is the worst team for them to face because Kyle Hamilton can match it with Travis by himself all day long. And then it's just a matter of who's rushing the passer. It's the problem that they have, and why I say Pacheco really to me is such a huge part of this offense moving forward. They got to start doing things that normal teams do, which is you got to get people to play your run, open up play action, and create stuff down the field. And I think Eric's right. They probably had no other options when Pacheco got a lot of catches, but he can at least create that dimension in their offense, which makes things easier. I think moving Mahomes around, they did a lot more of that in this game, which is a smart play to take some pressure off the offensive line. But no, they don't have the talent to go out and dominate secondaries that have talent. Like, there's no way Greg Newsome or Denzel Ward are scared of Rashee Rice. There's no way.
Yeah, but the problem is though, Jeff, is that Marlon Humphrey and Denzel Ward and guys like that are like hurt all the time. Like my guy Marlon Humphrey didn't even make it through last week without being banged up. Ward has been hurt. Like, the thing about the Chiefs, and like broadly speaking, this is probably my bull case on them, which is, and this is kind of reminds me of you still have the best player in the planet playing quarterback for you. You're fairly healthy on that side of the ball. And you still have Andy Reid, who, despite my entire rant about how poorly they've been coached this year, that Buffalo game was a game, right? But when Buffalo came into Kansas City for that 13-second game, they had just came into Kansas City months earlier and beat them by 3 scores. And Kansas City outplayed them from wire to wire and probably should have won that game by 2 scores. The Chiefs have it in them. I just
But you're referring to 3 years ago, though.
Sure, but Andy Reid is still capable of putting together a game plan to beat a very good football team. And I think to a certain extent, they have. I think that you can make a case that he still has the good plays to get these guys open. That's what I think.
We're proudly brought to you by our friends at Gann Asphalt and Concrete, nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Parking lot problems, they've been making them disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Don't risk accidents and liability in your parking lot. Get your lot restriped today. Cut down on accidents. Keep your parking lot safer. Keep you focused on your business. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lot. See them online at GannAsphalt.com. Can this team win a Super Bowl, right? That's one of the questions. I think we all agree. First of all, it's the NFL. On any given Sunday, any team can beat any team, right? Ask the Arizona Cardinals, and beating the Philadelphia Eagles. Can the Chiefs win a game? But to win a Super Bowl now, we know they're going to have to win 4 games in a row against playoff teams. A lineup that may be Buffalo, followed by Miami, followed by Baltimore, followed by, the 49ers. I mean, can they put that kind of run together? And I think that's where, for me, the answer is no, they can't, because they can't get their head out of their ass on catching the ball in the end zone. That's the part to me that I hate to come back to that, but when they look good, we all get excited, and rightfully so as fans, and fans should. You should embrace it and just sit and hope. And what is it? Duckies and bunnies, Eric? It's all duckies and bunnies, and this is how they're going to play the whole way. But even in victory, they do dumb things, and they will not play 4 smart football games in a row, and they're not talented enough to do it. So the answer is no, they're not good enough. And I hope I'm wrong, and I'll be thrilled to play this cut and be like, what a dumbass I was. How about, we've had some people suggest that, well, they're bored. It's the playoffs because
I don't think it's anything like that, Petro. And I tend to agree with you. However, it's probably going to shake out a little differently. To my original point, Buffalo is going to win as 3-point favorites in Miami this week against a Miami team that just lost Bradley Chubb.
I agree, but I just wanted
that team's banged the hell up.
Yeah, I just wanted to paint the toughest picture that it could be.
Sure.
It could be easier. It could be Colts followed by a Dolphin team that is getting banged up. I can come up with a yellow brick road scenario that is the best.
But I also don't think
it could be unreal.
But I don't think it's fair to characterize them as not talented. They are talented. They're incredibly talented defensively. L'Jarius Sneed is playing better than any corner in the NFL right now. George Karlaftis could make the Pro Bowl this year. And then they have Jones, who I know hasn't been as good, and it's kind of funny that he's not going to get a sack incentive and all this kind of stuff. They have 4 really good linebackers, the safety position. We all give Brett Veach some, crap about the wide receivers. He did draft, Rashee Rice, but he also signed Mike Edwards and Drew Tranquill, who are big parts of this defense this year as bit players. They're talented. It's just that their offense is a privilege this year. But their defense, if they give up 17 or fewer points in all 4 of those games, they got a shot, right?
Yeah, we're saying they're not talented on offense. We're not talking about the whole team isn't talented. It's they're talented on offense.
Yeah, but
the defense is part of the equation, though. Their defense has never been this talented, even when they won the Super Bowl.
And they can even when they play well, they can lose, right? 2 weeks ago, the offense gave two defensive touchdowns, and they lost.
Sure, but what happens? This defense has not forced a turnover in how many games, right?
That's
once
part of the
that
problem.
regresses to the mean, then they'll get some margin on some of these teams.
I think to me, they are what they are. They're a very good defense, but they're not going to take it away. I don't know why we think that there's this habit.
Yeah.
And listen, if after week one or the divisional round, they've +4 in a game with all these takeaways. Okay, fine, I'll say it. But they play good, sound defense. They are a very talented defensive team. I agree with you, but they don't take it away, and I don't see why that's.
Well, why don't they? It's not that they don't have the characteristics. They sack the quarterback. They
not
play
really. They do, but they don't. Not with like reckless violence. Like they're not the. It's you know what I mean. It's like
I know what you're trying to say, but like they do things that produce turnovers. They just haven't yet.
But that's a problem, though, right? I mean, at some point, you have to say they're just not good at doing it. I mean, Patrick Mahomes doesn't have an interception in his career. How many does Sneed have? Like 4, 5 in his career?
Mike Edwards, look, Tommy Moe just gave a snide remark, but Mike Edwards has picked off a ton of passes in his career, and I refuse to believe that he somehow forgot how to intercept a pass. Like I think that they do stuff like we're watching. And again, look. They don't have better odds. Like I would put, if I were betting, I would put the Ravens, the Bills, the 49ers, probably Dallas, all ahead of them odds-wise, easily. So they're not the favorite, and they shouldn't be the favorite. But can they win a Super Bowl? Absolutely. Like if they get, like again, they're giving up no points without producing turnovers right now.
I get it, and I think for one game they may have a big takeaway game, but I don't think they're going to do it 4 times.
Yeah, I think what Quinn said is accurate. They're going to have to do it multiple times, defensive touchdowns, to make this work. It's just no matter how you want to lay out the playoff road for them, most likely it's going to involve Miami here, Buffalo second, then a trip to Baltimore. Now maybe Cleveland upsets Baltimore, and that upsets the apple cart, and maybe they can end up having some weird situation where they're hosting a playoff game in the second round, in the championship game where Cleveland's coming here. I don't know, but ultimately it feels like there's 3 teams that are better than them in the AFC, and the Dolphins, if they're healthy, are probably at least even with them. I just don't know where it's. I don't think it's even being hard on them because you're comparing them to the standard that they've set for themselves, which is they're going to be a high-scoring team. They're going to be a smart team. They're going to be well-coached. They're not going to be screaming at each other on the sidelines, which seems to become a weekly occurrence now.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I say all the time, they're not having a whole bunch of fun out there. And to me, when you're out there screaming and yelling, getting frustrated at this time of the year, it tells you how they feel about it. I mean, ultimately, we're talking about them winning 4 games against really good teams. They haven't won 4 games against mediocre teams over the last 2 or 3 months. I mean, who have they beaten? The Raiders the Raiders with a backup quarterback, the New England Patriots, who are horrible, and the Bengals, who were down to a backup quarterback, and basically their 2 best receivers weren't even healthy.
Yeah, it's listen, they do play every game close. I want to address this because Chad said now we're criticizing how they get sacks. Last year there weren't enough sacks. I did a poor job of that when I was talking about it. Is like, usually turnovers come from the quarterback position, either by throwing picks, which are often pressured, comes from pressure, getting rid of the ball quickly, or fumbling. Nobody fumbles more than the quarterback position. And usually those come with like the Derek Thomas guy roaring off the edge. They get a lot of coverage sacks. Like I'm not trying to hate on them. They're a tremendous defense, right? They're really, really good. But my point is, I don't see turnovers coming around the corner. I don't see, this is not the Pittsburgh Steelers or the Ravens where they just pummel the quarterback and just beat the hell out of them. They get there, they're effective, but I just don't think that the takeaways are going to be what carries this team. They're going to have to play mistake-free football, and they don't do that.
Can I provide a possible analog for all the people who want to be positive? And again, I just said who I would take over the Chiefs. This team kind of reminds me of the 2018 Patriots, where they have there's sexier teams out there, namely the 2018 Chiefs were sexier, right? The Saints were probably better than the Patriots that year. The Rams, if you catch them in a different day, but but that pedigree though, did carry for that Patriots team, right? And there were, when you got into that AFC Championship game against the Chiefs, I
think it's an excellent point. And they are good enough. And I think that's where Chiefs fans should be excited. This is the crappiest version that they have had with Patrick Mahomes, and they are good enough to beat anybody out there. That is the joy of having a great quarterback and a great coach, is that you can put it together. And yes, there is a scenario like that. Tell me what it looks like, Eric. What does a championship look like? It starts with Indianapolis or somebody like that, right?
Right. And when I was going to the question is have they flipped over completely to the 2019 Patriots, right? Where it was just too much, right? Where they go and their defense, where the offense is so bad that you get beat by Tennessee in the first round. So to me, it just looks like, what happened in that Super Bowl? We had, Brian Flores had one of the best game plans and had one of the best, basically coverage mismatches for Jared Goff, a guy who.
But you have to get them to the Super Bowl first. That's what he was asking.
So what happened in the AFC Championship game? They shut out the Chiefs in the first half. They basically
I know I was there. I was alive in 18. I saw the Pats.
Yeah,
recap of the Pats. I'm asking you, what does it look like for the Chiefs, Eric?
Yeah, Andy Reid coaches his ass off for once this year, right? And I'm a huge Andy Reid's one of the best coaches of all time. I know on this show we talked about him as being the best coach of all time. I think we have to cool the jets after seeing the last few months. But Andy Reid, much like Belichick back in 2018, right? You get there like they did, and you just coach your ass off for a month and a half. That's basically because right now you have the.
All right, I'll give it to you because you're not going to go there. So I'll give it to you. If it's going to happen, this is what it'll look like. The Colts will get in as the 6. And there's the Colts, and what do they got? Like a 32% chance. I saw one of the breakdowns. There's a 32% chance that it will be like the Colts or
that would be Buffalo not being in,
Texas,
right? That's Buffalo not being in, right?
It's not Buffalo and it's not Miami. Just you wouldn't do it. Let me do it.
Yeah.
All right. It's not Buffalo or Miami in the first round. It's the Colts or Texans, of which there's a 32% chance that they face those. It's that Cleveland gets by whoever comes out of the AFC South, and Cleveland takes out Baltimore in what is just an ugly rock fight divisional, playing a team a third-time game. And Joe Flacco, who everyone has now decided is God's gift to quarterbacking, he's not. He's just had some moments, right? But it's Cleveland taking out the Baltimore Ravens. It's beating the Dolphins. It starts with the Dolphins getting the Bills the hell out of there. Yeah. And then it's beating a banged-up Dolphins team in Miami, then coming home to play the Cleveland Browns. That's what gets them there. And it's maybe the Eagles, or the Lions, anybody but the 49ers getting into the Super Bowl. That's your path. That's your dream. The Bills crapping in their hat this weekend and getting the hell out of the way, and then a yellow brick road. That's the scenario, because they are not going to go through the Bills, Dolphins, Ravens, Niners. They can't. That's a fact.
Yeah. And to that point, what happened with New England back in 2018 was they had a first-round bye. It was back when they still had six teams and 2 first-round byes. They played a Chargers team that beat the Ravens in the first week, and so they had them at home. They blew them out, and then they came here and played the game of their life. So they only had to really coach well for 2 games.
3. I mean, the Super Bowl too.
Well, that San Diego game I'm saying was just they were better than the Chargers. The Chargers, I mean, Anthony Lynn was the coach of the Chargers. That was a team that had played well, but they were not in the same class.
There was a lot of bettors loved the Chargers that game.
Is Isiah Pacheco the most important weapon they've got, Jeff?
Yeah, because he can make things easier on the quarterback. He can make things easier in the passing game, and they used him in the passing game in this past weekend in a way that I thought was encouraging. Okay, let's get him out and run some real routes and put some pressure on the defense and show something they haven't shown in a long time. So I like that dynamic they brought into it for him, but really he forces defenses to adjust to them. You have to. He's not Barry Sanders out there, but he's such a physical player. He's got the speed, and when he gets creases, he can make things happen. And so you have to respect him. And so that's the thing I say about the talent. There's only a couple guys you really respect right now. Travis, again, is on the borderline because of his name, but I mean, he really can open some things up if they want to commit to him. If it goes back to Edwards-Helaire getting healthy and McKinnon in the playoffs and they're splitting carries, I think it's a different story.
How much was offensive line, Eric, and having that kind of performance in the run game?
It was good. I think DJ Reader being out really hurt the Bengals. The Bengals are one of the worst defenses in the league in terms of giving up explosive plays. And so I think it would have been even more troubling if the Chiefs weren't. If you looked at, go to @Sumer Sports on Twitter for everybody who hasn't already, we put out a chart about how every team did. And it was one of those, for those of you who are looking at advanced stats, there's this thing called success rate and expected points added or yards per play. Success rate is basically whether or not you had a good play. And then EPA or yards per play kind of is like a slugging percentage where, the big plays kind of add more. For one time, it's been the Chiefs had a low success rate on offense on Sunday, but a pretty high yards per play and a pretty high EPA. And so that was the Bengals defense giving up chunk plays. That was the first game where the Chiefs have actually gotten chunk plays on offense in a long time. And that was kind of basically, if you've watched the Bengals play defense for the, since DJ Reader's been out, but mostly the whole season. I mean, they've really missed Jesse Bates a lot since he went on to Atlanta. Like that was a, defensive line that really missed Reader. You could tell that the Chiefs offensive line was doing a good job, but Hendrickson and Hubbard and those guys, like those are good pass rushers. And Wanya Morris did give up a strip sack, but for the most part, they played incredibly well. But that Bengals defense is not good. So yeah, I do grade on a curve a little bit there.
We're brought to you by our friends at Gann Asphalt and Concrete with free consultations, no commissions, and in-house crews. Every project, every single one, comes with a written warranty. Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer, helps you focus on your business. No unnecessary delays, costly expenses. Gann Asphalt and Concrete online at GannAsphalt.com. Listen, why is MVS still on the field? Like, what is the reason that he is still sent out there, Jeff? Can you explain that one to me?
To give cover for all the other receivers who aren't getting it done. How's that? It's for a guy who's supposed to take the top off the defense. I can't imagine any defense out there, any defensive back or coordinator who is concerned about this guy going down the field and catching passes now because he is so unreliable in that realm. I mean, and maybe for me, Eric probably can explain this to me. The Chiefs have to have more than 30 drops or whatever it is. I see stats about their drops, and it seems like it's super low.
I agree.
But maybe they don't give credit for like the drop MVS had where the ball just went right through his hands on that deep route. But I just don't feel like, one, we know he's not going to be here next year based on what he's done. But two, he's not a factor in the same way that Kadarius Toney is not a factor and Sky Moore is not a factor. He just does nothing in this offense anymore. So I'd rather have Justin Watson running those deep routes. I know they can't always have the same guy doing it because it's a pretty rough job running 40, 50 yards down the field every play. But, yeah, he's useless now.
Why is he on the field, Eric?
I don't know. Fucking beats me. Look, I've said my piece about this. I've a lot of the metrics I built up, like really liked him coming out of Green Bay. And, I think the one thing that's true, and I played receiver and in high school, I played tight end in college, like there is like a mental part of it. And, when you watched MVS play in Green Bay, like I remember a game against Minnesota where he legit dropped like a 70-yard touchdown. And Rodgers like went back to him like a play or two later and he caught a 70-yard touchdown. And, in Green Bay, he had big plays and Aaron Rodgers like would go back to him after he missed big plays. And Patrick just simply like the biggest part about Mahomes' game is he does not throw away plays. And so I think that has like really messed with his head because like he doesn't get targets, right? Like the biggest indictment of him was before he started dropping passes here, he wasn't getting open and getting the ball, right? Like he was having a crappy season before the drop against Philly. He was not getting open. He was not getting the ball. Patrick was not giving him the ball. The Philly thing just exacerbated the whole thing. But like that was the one target he got all game. That was the biggest problem with MVS is he's not even getting open and getting the ball very much. And I think it's all in his head. And that's why, in my opinion, and this is where I gotta think if the Chiefs are serious about this, you got to play him on Sunday and give him like 15 targets. If Gabbert's going to be like, that's the only way, because he's not like he's just not going to get over it otherwise, right? Like he's got the yips, like he's Rick Gang Keel, he's Chuck Knobloch or whatever. Like that's who he is at this point, and you can't play him, in my opinion. I just don't know how you can, because one of these teams is just going to leave him wide ass open in the middle of the field, and Patrick's going to throw it to him out of instinct, and it's going to be awful. It's going to ruin a game in the playoffs.
Yeah. I would say this, Soren, and Eric knows this. There is no position where you're going to see. We all know this, that receivers are volatile anyway. When you are a receiver, especially at the professional level, and you're open, and your quarterback, no matter who he is, doesn't throw you the football, you get pissed off in a hurry. And you can see, like, just the reaction. Someone mentioned the reaction he had when he dropped that pass in the crossing route, which is, it's kind of showed him up like, hey, I want to hear. Like the way Kadarius Toney responded in that game against Philadelphia when the ball didn't come his way at first and he caught the lateral. It's like you can see these guys feeling that need, that desire to want to do something. And when that ball's not coming their way, that's a big part of this too. Like you cannot tell me these guys aren't sitting there saying, we're taking all the blame for this. And this can't be all our fault. There's some level of just delusion. Plays in this as well.
And when you listen to him in the media, and I interviewed him at the Super Bowl, like there is not a more delusional player on the team. and I kind of like that in some players. Like I interviewed him at the Super Bowl. It's up on the PFF forecast. You can all see it. I told him, I was like, look, like your numbers say you're one of the better deep threats in the whole league. He's like, yeah, I'm one of the better receivers in the whole league. I'm like, okay. And I just kept talking. Like I kept moving on. Like that's what these guys got to tell themselves. But like, I fear that like lack of self-awareness, when you actually come to and realize that you're ass, it's probably worse than if you are like me when I played, where you kind of have a really decent idea of how mid you are. Like it's probably a bigger fall for somebody like MVS, who's pretty delusional, and you come to and realize that you're holding an entire Super Bowl contender back.
Yeah, it is. Listen, Richie James, despite his, I don't know what he was doing on the punt return. He is a guy that, honestly, I walked outside. I got up and walked outside. I mean, I honestly, it's the closest I've come to wanting to throw something at a TV in a long, long time. I mean, for the most part, I don't get that fired up, but I'm just like, what? Like, what is next? Like, what can you do next? But I will say this: he's where he's supposed to be as a receiver. He catches the football when you throw it to him. I like him being part of the mix in the receiving part. And for MVS, I like what Eric said. Like, for one, almost just get out there. Like, it's got to suck having a guy who's a second-round pick when you're Kadarius Toney and you were a first-round pick, and when you're MVS and you're making $10 million. It's got to suck to have Rashee Rice showing everybody up, right? Like, I mean, it's his job. It's got to be a tough pill to swallow. But, like, whether it's just to shame him into it or just to get him going, I love the idea of throwing the ball to MVS like 15 times. I like, here it is. Either
if you drop 10 of them, then you literally can't play him in the playoffs, right? Like, and if he catches them and he gets out of it, like I grew up, Jake Reid was a great receiver for the Vikings when I was a kid. And there was when he was the 3 behind Moss and Carter, like well after his 1,000, he was a 1,000-yard guy, and then they drafted Moss. And then when he was their 3 at the tail end of his career, he had like a series of like 5 drops in like 2 games. And instead of benching him, the next game they went out and threw him the first 8 passes of the game, literally. And they were just like, you're getting over this or you're never playing again. And he like caught them all or whatever. But like, obviously the Chiefs in a playoff race are not going to do that with MVS, but this game literally doesn't matter. if you want to play this guy 70 snaps a game in the playoffs, you get Gabbert rising up and throwing that guy a hitch the first 3 plays of the game on Sunday.
Yeah.
Right? Otherwise, what is he doing?
Yeah. Well, and also this is
Sunday. That's the biggest. I don't get it. I do not get it.
Well, and also this is also one of the downsides of the way Andy Reid runs his offense, which is everybody's equal. We talked about this earlier in the season, where everybody's a player, everybody's a playmaker. The ball can come your way. When in reality, some guys play better when other guys are the alphas, and they know, okay, I'm gonna get like when MVS was in Green Bay, he knew Devontae Adams was going to get the lion's share of the targets, and so okay, I'm the deep guy. He's coming my way every now and then. I'll be ready for it. Like here, they've turned him into this player who thinks he should be bigger than that. They've made Kadarius Toney think he should be bigger than what he is. They've made Sky Moore feel that way. And some guys just can't deliver. I don't want to mislead people with the comparison I'm going to make here. It's like Scottie Pippen with Jordan, Scottie Pippen without Jordan. Different player when you got more pressure on you. Some guys can handle that. Some guys can't. You got a lot of guys in that locker room who play that position who can't handle that pressure of the ball coming their way. A few, not as much as they want, but having to do something when it comes your way.
The game doesn't matter at all, Jeff, but should Travis Kelce play and get 1,000 yards? He needs 16 yards for 1,000. It'd be the 8th consecutive one. No other tight end had ever had more than 3. And only one other tight end had ever had 3 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons. Does he play? Should he play?
I don't think he should play. Yeah, I think he's had such a long season. He's 34 years old. He's had injuries. And I don't think if he plays, those yards are going to come that easy. If he's got to be out there for like 3 quarters to get it, he had 16 yards in the whole game. Past game. You want him out there just running around, taking shots just to get
well, what are you going to do? Are you going to throw bubble screens and have him put his shoulder down and run through guys? I mean, to his credit, I mean, I think that's one of the things where I think I've kind of realized he knows the athleticism not there, and so now he's been much more physical. Like a couple of games ago against the Raiders, I don't know if he got into a pissing match with somebody and somebody called him soft or something. He said, "Okay, I'll show you," and he started putting his helmet in some guy's chest. But like, I'm not sure what is the safe, easy way to get him 16 yards.
Yeah. Let me ask you this: is that yardage worth what happened to Bradley Chubb? I don't think it is.
Well, I mean, is that yardage worth the whole rigmarole of practicing the next couple days, going through walkthrough on Friday, dressing for the game, getting lathered up, getting in, like, there's also the whole thing about like, just treat it like a bye week, my guy, right? Like that's how it needs to be done. Because people forget he was hurt in week 1.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he needs a bye more than anybody.
Well, I think this team needs a bye. I mean, I think this is their perfect scenario. I think the fact that
everybody but MVS on this team deserves a bye.
I think this could serve them well, that they don't have, some distant outside shot playing at the same time, where if somebody else lost that's playing at the same time they are, that they could find some back-ass way to improve their seed or something. The fact that they're locked in, I think, does give them a lot. But I'll say this. I would go for it. I mean, like, it's part of your legacy, and we can't sit here and have Eric be like, he's not even that good, and then be like, he can't get hurt. What will they do? If Noah Gray is the guy, I'm not trying to be a dick to you, Eric. I'm just saying, like, if that's true, then we can't be you can't be sweating him being out, are you?
Well, he's got Jawan Taylor's not that good, but I hope he doesn't get hurt. Right? Like, I don't want him.
I don't think anybody. I agree. I don't think anybody's rooting for someone to get hurt. I think that's ridiculous. But I do think that another 1,000-yard season is a part of the legacy.
No, it's amazing. There's precedent.
If this is his last year, he should absolutely play.
Okay, but there's precedent for this too. I mean, Andy in Patrick Mahomes' first start played Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt got like a 40-yard touchdown to get the rushing title. He sat him the rest of the game. So we've seen that happen before. Like, this is not outside the realm of possibility. But in Travis's case, at 35 years old, having beat up all year with a knee injury at the beginning of the year, and sure. Like, go out there, throw him 5 passes, then throw MVS another 15 passes, make a point, I guess.
It's not even a record anymore. Yeah, he's already set the record, right? It's just
Oh yeah,
keeping the streak alive.
he's got the
Yeah,
record.
I mean,
But it would be one more. And listen, guys are into their numbers. Listen, I think it's worth it. I think it's worth it to go out there because first of all, people act like he's a China doll and just implode. He's a professional football player. I mean,
who almost blew out his knee in week 1 in practice doing nothing.
Listen, I don't think he's going to play. I don't think
he should play.
What about Chris Jones, who's got $1 million bonus, a half a sack away? That's really hard because it could happen in the first play, but it might not happen at all. Getting sacks is hard.
If Chris Jones plays, we really have to question this team's mindset.
Yeah. What are we doing?
What are the odds Chris Jones goes up to another level in the postseason? That we watch him. This is the guy that before last year we were talking about had no postseason sacks.
Yeah.
I do not think we're going to get Chris Jones's average performance this year in the playoffs. I think he's either going to disappear completely, which we've seen, or he's going to play like he did last year in the postseason, which is like a maniac.
Yeah, I think the same thing. I can very easily see him thinking about his next payday when he's done with this team. That's a very real thing for him. And until this past week, he hadn't really been lighting it up anyway. So I think when it comes to sacks, potential passing situations, he'll give it his all. But I don't think he's going to be out there turning into, DJ Reader on rundowns.
I think it was Daniel. He says, I think Mahomes will try to get Kelce the 16 yards. I think Daniel was the one that said that Mahomes is not going to have a helmet in.
Yeah, he's not going to be out there.
Anywhere near. Patrick Mahomes will be nowhere near the field. Does anybody think Patrick Mahomes?
No, dude, you remember last year, Jeff was at the stadium. I was on my way to Indianapolis, but then I stopped in my car to do the halftime show, right? And the look, I still have that picture when Patrick was hurt in that game. The look on both of our like we were going to a wake.
Yeah,
they would never risk that nonsense at all. No, Patrick. Patrick shouldn't even go to the stadium on Sunday.
Yeah, no, there's no.
Be sitting with Taylor.
Yeah,
exactly. Exactly where he should be.
I mean, did you see that picture of Patrick with Travis and his wife and Taylor Swift? Like Patrick, my guy was in outer space in that picture.
I didn't see it.
He ain't playing this week.
Yeah, no, I don't think he's playing this week at all. And first of all, he's not going to play. I don't even want to entertain that. But I saw the one comment up there. He's not going to play. There's no chance that he will play in this game. Will L'Jarius Sneed be a Kansas City Chief? Have we seen the last regular season game, Jeff, that L'Jarius Sneed will wear a Chiefs uniform?
I believe we have. And that's mainly because of the work they have to do on offense to create a better receiving core if they're going to go that route. And we're probably all in agreement they're going to have to invest heavily in that side of the football to get this receiving core to a higher level. Somebody's going to have to be a sacrifice. And Chris Jones is already be part of that. But L'Jarius Sneed, the kind of money he can command on the open market, I don't see them franchising him. They've never paid a corner big money since Brett Veach has been the GM here. It's just all signs seem to be pointing towards him leaving. And he's probably going to get whatever, 17, 18, 19 million a year on the open market, whatever they're paying for corners now. And he probably deserves it based on the way he's played this year. So I don't know where we talk about the defense a lot this year. I think this defense was put together with the mindset of it's going to take some time for these young receivers to get going. And so that was the insurance. Let's be able to stop people because we may not have as dynamic of an offense as we've had in the past. Probably didn't anticipate it being this bad, but at this stage, they're probably ready to go back to the idea of we got to outscore people and we need to have a little more firepower. And that means a little less on defense.
Yeah. I mean, the reality is that right now they already have $215 million on next year's cap, with $0 going to Chris Jones, Derek Nottie, Michael Dana, Willie Gay, Drew Tranquil, L'Jarius Sneed, and Donovan Smith at left tackle. I mean, I know Wanya Morris, people have decided is God's gift to the position, and nobody's worried about it. But that, like, they're at $215 million, and no. Oh, and by the way, everybody wants 4 new receivers as well. So they're not going to have L'Jarius Sneed, are they, Eric? There's no chance that L'Jarius Sneed is going to be back with this team.
I actually am a little bit less bearish on this than Jeff. Like, so yes, they don't pay corners. Yes, they have McDuffie in the wings. Yes, they have Williams and Watson in the wings. All that stuff's true. I do think, though, that if they look at the Tyreek thing and what it's done to their receiving core, I do think I do get worried. So there's two sides of it. L'Jarius Sneed has a knee issue, right? Like that the whole league kind of knows about. And I do think that will reduce the same way Juju last year, like when we were talking, and I was wrong, 17 million or so, 15 to 17 million. He goes for 13. Ultimately, that was too much because of the knee. I think that the Chiefs will walk on Sneed, not because of anything we've just talked about, but because of the knee, actually. Like, I do think that that's legitimate, and the Chiefs know him better than anything. If the knee checks out, I think they keep him because he's instrumental for everything they do. And I think that the lesson that they're going to take from the Tyreek Hill situation is not the wide receiver lesson so much as it's young superstar lesson, and you need to have blue chip players on your team. And I think L'Jarius Sneed has proven this year that he's a blue chip player, and I don't necessarily know if they're going to be all that eager to let him go. So that's my only comeback, is that I do think if the knee checks out, I do think that they'll try to keep him, even if the finances are tight.
Yeah, I think they'd like to do it. I think they have too much work to do. I'll be shocked if he's back, at least right now. And I haven't done a lot of digging around. I don't have any information on that, but I just think that for one, I think part of what their MO is, and I know, like Tommy said, hey, the Pats always have a number one corner. They do, but it was always turning over too.
Yeah.
Right? They were getting guys after some other team had paid the big signing bonus, and then they would get Darrelle Revis, and bring him in and make the trade.
Gilmore was the one that they paid a lot of money to.
Yeah, or they would draft a guy, and it turned over as to who it was, and they have McDuffie. They do still have a guy that can be there. So I get that that's how the Patriots went about it, but they already have McDuffie there for that. And so I think the other thing is, I think they have figured out that corner is kind of like running back. Like, what corner is ever worth their second contract ever? Like they all end up getting Patrick Peterson. Everybody wanted Patrick Peterson here 15 minutes ago. Remember that? And he's 3 teams down the road from that moment when everybody wanted Patrick Peterson signed and trade for Peterson, whatever it is. Corners are done at like 28.
Yeah. Yeah. And Jalen Ramsey was worth his second contract.
Why would you invest in? Why is
Gilmore's been pretty damn good, but yeah,
he has been. But there's an exception to every rule. But why would I think your point about the knee is spot on, Eric? I mean, he missed all of training camp, for God's sake, right? Like,
yeah, he has been like, I don't want to reduce this here. Like, L'Jarius Sneed has played better than Chris Jones played last year.
Well, he's played at a high level. Yeah,
like we all talk about Chris Jones was Chris Jones had one of the all-time great Chiefs seasons last year. And L'Jarius Sneed is arguably outplaying that level of performance. And to your point, and to everybody's point, the Chiefs didn't re-up Jones based on that season. So they, that might not, but that was a third contract for Jones. This would be a second contract for Sneed. But Sneed has played every bit as well as any Chiefs defender has played in decades.
What do we got? What happens? What? Give me a prediction for Sunday, Jeff.
I'll take Chargers 17-13. I don't know. I mean, I won't be watching the game very closely. I can promise you that. But
okay, Eric, you want to take it?
Yeah, I think it's like that. I mean, the Chargers might just find a way to blow that game, even though it doesn't matter. I think MVS is 15 targets, 4 catches.
He is 50% catches to targets on the year.
I mean, look, in the 1990s, that would have been acceptable. That was like, what was that like?
He's Willie Galt.
Yeah, he was. Who is Willie Davis? Right, he was Willie Davis, like.
Yeah.
But worse. No, it's annoying. I think, yeah. I mean, they always play hard in these games where they play their backups. I think at the Chargers in 13, they almost won that game. They won outright with Patrick in 17. So let's go with that trend. Let's say they win 17-13.
Yeah. Easton Stick is going to rise up. There it is. I like that one. I don't know. I'll actually take the Chiefs to win it and find a way. The Chargers are crap. And they've been on mental hiatus for 3 weeks now. So the Chiefs will find a way, some kind of ugly, sloppy 23-17 type of win. Give us a prediction on Michigan and Washington before we go, Jeff, because we will that game will have been played by the time we.
Michigan wins.
Yeah,
I'll take Michigan 21-20.
I'll go Michigan 27. I'll go Michigan 31-20.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. First of all, I think people, Eric, what do you got real quick?
No, I don't disagree with that. I tend to respect the market. Michael Penix Jr., a hell of a game yesterday, though.
He did, but I think he is, I mean, he's willing to throw the ball. Like, my guy's looking, they ain't. Here it comes. And the dudes, I do love the Washington wide receivers. They're great, but I'm going to tell you, Michigan should have won that game going away against Alabama. I don't think people remember a muffed punt, 4 points in the kicking game that they left off the board. Like Michigan,
the Michigan special teams like made Dave Toe blush. I'll just say
that. See how it ends up going. Remember, we're always brought to you by Gann Asphalt and Concrete. You can find them online at GannAsphalt.com. One contractor, all things parking lot, making parking lot problems disappear since 1994. Again, online at GannAsphalt.com. For Jeff Chadiha from the NFL Network, Eric Eager from Super Sports, I'm Soren Petro saying thank you very much for joining us here on Gold and Bold Podcast.